what happened, the destruction here when the fire just tore through the neighborhood. I just talked with a homeowner who tells me he tried to get here in the neighborhood quickly to try and see if his home is still standing. He was on his way to his home. He said a lot of neighbors were asking him to check on their homes as well, because a lot of people, when they rushed out of here and took whatever they could to get to safety, they didn't know if their home would still be here when they return. Unfortunately, he has a lot of bad news to deliver to those neighbors. And you guys talked about a count, right? There's so much to show, by the way. You guys talked about a count of how many homes have burned. When we first got here, a little bit closer to 3 o'clock in the morning at Sunset and Chautauqua, which has been a popular spot where a lot of firefighters have been because of so much destruction. I talked with a firefighter who was actually down here from NorCal, and he said that he counted with his own eyes dozens of homes burned. He said that it would be a safe bet to say that hundreds have burned. Of course, that's still information that we need to confirm, but he had been around the neighborhood with different crews, and he said there were dozens and dozens. He could bet hundreds. Of course, we're still waiting to find out more about that information. If you continue to walk with me down Iliff, you'll just see more and more homes burned. That one homeowner I talked with asked me, how much worse is it down the way? Well, we're still finding out as well, because there are just so many homes. And then there are homes like this one here that are still standing. And oftentimes we see this where there's no rhyme or reason behind why a home is still standing. But these homeowners, I mean, so lucky when they see this. And as we report, we can't help but think of the viewers, the homeowners who are watching, waiting to find out if their home is still standing. So we keep that top of mind as we deliver this kind of news. Look at this burned out car and the metal on the ground that melted. These flames just so intense and relentless. When I talked with firefighters, I asked, what has it been like on the fire lines? And they said, well, take a look around you, because the winds have just been unbearable. The winds have been so intense. Earlier in the evening, or earlier in the morning, I should say, overnight, we saw a lot of embers flying all over the place. And there are a lot of palm trees out here. We know how dangerous that can become. Those palm trees are like fireworks because they cast off even more embers. And we know these embers are flying, not just a mile in regular fires like what we normally see. This isn't a regular fire. This is an intense wind-driven fire. And as we continue to walk down Iliff, it's just home after home, flames. It's just incredible to see. It's unbelievable to see. We've been out here for several hours now, and firefighters tell me resources are low. They're doing their best. We know that this is a big mutual aid operation. We know that there are fire crews from all over the state. We know that the governor actually deployed firefighters from NorCal to SoCal to help with the firefight. That was one of the firefighters I talked with. And right now, as
and or food, any type of donation, it can become problematic if the public starts to just drop things off. So we are putting together a strong plan from our Emergency Operations Center. We're at the highest level at this point. We're coordinating with the county as well. So stand by for more information. We want to be very purposeful and strategic in how we're going to collect those donations, and they are welcomed.
Right over here with the glasses and the gray, right behind you. Over here with the hand up.
Thank you, sir. Scott Snowden, Santa Monica Daily Press. Question for Ms. Horvath. Are there any forecasts or predictions at this point for the economic impact of this?
There are no early numbers of the economic impact, but we are already exploring how we can do, for example, a business interruption fund, as we have done in other states of emergency. We know that there are many businesses that have also been impacted, in addition to the people who are experiencing difficulty in their homes. So we are looking at what resources the county has available to support on all fronts. But thank you for the question.
Lastly, do you think this will affect insurance companies in their approach to house owners going forward?
I believe it already has, and the conversation is ongoing. As I shared earlier from the insurance commissioner, I know this is an ongoing conversation in his office, and he has provided that information and welcoming phone calls from folks who do have questions about insurance impacts as a result of these fires. I do know that yesterday, through the help of our chair, the county declared a state of emergency, as did the governor, and I know that there are other states of emergency that will be declared in order to make sure that all residents are able to readily access everything that they need to in response to these claims.
Thank you. We need to move on. Right here in the front, young woman with the hand up.
Hi, Grace Tui with the Los Angeles Times. I was hoping one of the fire chiefs could talk a little bit about long-range spotting and how far we actually saw embers jumping from one fire to other spot fires. And then additionally, we heard repeatedly fire crews requesting help, backup, and not having enough crews. Were you guys prepared enough for this? Did we have enough resources to fight these fires? Thank you.
Thank you for the question. So I'll start at the end and work back. No, LA County and all 29 fire departments in our county are not prepared for this type of widespread disaster. There are not enough firefighters in LA County to address 4 separate fires of this magnitude. We were prepared. We did get state pre-positioned resources that came from Northern California that were up in the Santa Clarita Valley. We did hire additional firefighters from the LA County Fire Department and pre-positioned them in the Santa Monica Mountains. The LA County Fire Department was prepared for 1 or 2 major brush fires, but not 4, especially given these sustained winds and low humidities. Like our Director of Emergency Management said, this is not a normal red flag alert. People were calling for help. We tried to get them the help that they needed. LA County right now, like the LA City Fire Department, is prioritizing life safety, but we're also engaging in structure defense, perimeter control, and aerial operations. Remember that the LA County Fire Department has 13 aerial assets available to it. In addition to our agency-owned helicopters, we have our 2 CL-415 Super Scoopers and our CH-47, which is part of the 3-county QRF. So we're prepared to keep fighting the fight. Like I said earlier, I've requested additional resources, not only from Northern California, but from out of state. We did that last night, yesterday. So we're doing the very best we can, but no, we don't have enough fire personnel in LA County between all of the departments to handle this. Thank you.
Thank you. And we have a couple of just quick
I
questions.
just want to also acknowledge that that came down from Sacramento State Senator Ben Allen and Sasha Perez, as well as their Santa Monica Mayor Negrete, who's also present here. And I know that Congressman George Whiteside is flying in from Washington, D.C. He represents the Sylmar Santa Clarita area. And so we appreciate you all being here.
Thank you,
And
Chair
I think
Barker.
someone from the mayor's office would like to go ahead.
Thank you,
introduce
Supervisor. Thank you. Appreciate it. Good morning, everybody. Celine Cordero, Deputy Chief of Staff to Mayor Bass. I just wanted to step forward and address the question about the mayor. The mayor will be on the ground shortly, very shortly this morning, and engaged. But I want to assure the community and the city, our mayor has been actively engaged 100% of the time, the entire last 24 hours. Throughout this unfortunate event and crisis. The mayor has been in constant communication with our chief of police, our fire chief, our council president, our law enforcement partners, our Supervisor Barger, thank you, and our county partners. So I just want to stress, she has had 100% access the entire time that she's been traveling and been actively involved in the decision making. So thank you very much to all up here, and the mayor looks forward to meeting you very shortly this morning.
Thank you for that. Over here in the green shirt.
Good morning, Stephen Coleman, KABC. You mentioned 4 fires. I'm aware of 3. Could you describe and characterize the 4th fire? County fire?
Yes, I can speak briefly on that 4th fire was a Woodley fire, which is approximately, it was a smaller fire. We threw a lot of resources at it. It is under control at this point. We'll push that information out to the media so you have the very specifics, but we're calling it the Woodley fire.
Can you tell us where it was located?
Yeah, it was in the Sepulveda Basin. Yes, sir.
Thank you. Last question, then we'll have one-on-ones. Hi, Samantha Norris, San Fernando Valley Sun. I know the Hearst fire is one of the smaller fires here, but can somebody speak more to what resources are being deployed to that fire? And for people in the Sylmar area, what are the evacuation zone areas, any closures, and where those people can go in the area?
Hi, good morning. Councilwoman Monica Rodriguez from the 7th District. Last night we evacuated 71 horses from the Stetson Ranch area. The fire came up quickly, and so thankfully they were safely evacuated to the Hanson Dam Equestrian Center. As we indicated, this is a very dynamic situation, and the lack of aerial support is making it that much more challenging for firefighters to be able to fight these fires, whether it's in the Palisades or any other part of the county. And so it's critically important that people heed the evacuation orders in the Sylmar community. Richie Valens Rec Center in Pacoima is available for the evacuations. Currently, there is 80% vacancies, so there's still capacity for people to evacuate there. Going beyond that, we will continue to open up additional facilities as it's needed. I want to ensure the public that the things that you can do, and I know the question was asked earlier, if you're not in the immediate fire area, there are things that you can do to be of assistance, and it goes to looking at hardening your home from any potential threat of embers. These embers fly, they can go for a couple miles. So we want to ensure that they do everything to create the defensible space in their homes if they're in the adjacent areas. Again, staying off the roads to the greatest degree possible. More importantly, reducing your water usage at this time because there is no aerial support. All of our water is being heavily demanded upon for these firefights in all parts of the county. So these are the proactive measures that people can be taking to be of assistance immediately given the needs of our first responders. If you have downed power lines, report those to 911. We can also report all outages to 1-800-DIAL-DWP. And most importantly, for trees that are down, because we know we have a lot of road blockages, our Bureau of Street Services, for the City of Los Angeles, all of our street services crew and public works crews are out there doing that work as well, and they are part of our first responders. Want to make sure that everyone's reporting those to 311 so that we can keep the roads cleared for everyone to have the greatest amount of access for our fire personnel. But most importantly, for the adjacent equine areas, because I know in the Hearst fire, we're concerned about the spread right now. There's a lull in the wind, but we're concerned about the potential spread to other equine areas. We want to make sure that we launched our early evacuation for horse keeping areas in the Northeast San Fernando Valley. And I want to continue to urge the public in these adjacent areas to please be prepared with your bags, with your important documents, to be ready to be prepared to potentially heed the call for evacuation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We're over time. We're going to...
Just one clarity as well, so you have some of the statistics. It started at 1010 last night. The latest acreage we have is 500 acres. We're working closely with our partners, which are the Los Angeles National Forest. We have a rep over here behind us, so we can do some one-on-ones if you want more specific, but we are unified with them. Also, the good news is through the heroic efforts of our crews working through the night last night, our overall objective was to keep that fire so it did not overpass the 5, did not cross the 5 at this point. We're able to hold it to that point. But again, the winds are back up. We're working really, really hard there to make sure we maintain that. And we're continue to work really, really hard with our partners.
Thanks, Chief. Yeah, I don't have too much more to add, but I will share that the Los Angeles City Fire and the Angeles National Forest went into unified command immediately when that fire started. And that fire started in an area we're well exercised, known as the mutual threat zone. So that's a part of our pre-planned unified command area, and that includes ground resources and aircraft. And of course, as mentioned, aircraft has been having a hard time finding good air, and actually with the wind speeds. We're assessing aircraft availability every minute, continuously watching for a window to get aircraft up from multiple parts and multiple agencies. The Angeles National Forest aircraft and the air tanker base that services the Southern California areas in Lancaster under the U.S. Forest Service, and they're watching for opportunities to launch aircraft. But last night, the winds out in the Antelope Valley were just as bad as they were here in what we call the Front Range. So we're still struggling to get aircraft in the air.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Robert Garcia, Fire Chief for the Angeles National Forest.
Thank you. We are wrapping up our press conference. We will have one-on-ones and a short for Spanish media. If you gather right over here, we will have Sheriff Luna and also LA City PIO with Fire David Ortiz. So Spanish interviews right over here.
All right. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to 9 o'clock here. I'm Roxy Carpadian. We are continuing our fire coverage. We've been on for hours watching the devastation and the destruction that has taken over so many of these communities.
And I'm Sandra Endo. Thanks for joining us on our continuous coverage right here. These are the latest information details that we have on these fires that have been raging throughout Southern California. At least 2 people have been killed and hundreds of homes burned at this point. Thousands more are threatened. The fires are burning out of control in Pacific Palisades, Sylmar, and near Altadena at this point. Dozens of schools are closed this morning as well. And for now, crews continue their best to save lives and property. And we're seeing a live picture of the wind conditions that aren't letting up, right, Maria?
Sadly, not letting up. I just got some bad news that my brother-in-law, sister-in-law's house was indeed consumed by the fire. So that whole neighborhood is just gone. There was one house that's standing on their street. So I just feel so sad. All the memories. I know it's just stuff, you know, it's all perspective. And they're safe, they're fine, they evacuated, but it's just so sad. I feel so bad for all the families that have been affected by these fires, not just in the Palisades area, but of course out towards the Eaton fire, the Hearst fire. And unfortunately, these winds are going to continue. So even if your home is standing, even if you are not near those fires directly, these winds are going to continue to blow. So the danger is still with us. These winds still clocking in at 20, 30 miles per hour. The wind gusts are much stronger. We're still expecting these wind gusts to be near 60 to even 80 miles an hour. Beverly Hills nearing 30 miles an hour. A little quieter out towards the South Bay, but out in Orange County, very strong winds, the usual wind-prone areas below those Santa Ana Mountains, out towards the Inland Empire, San Bernardino, very strong gusty winds, and they were very strong last night and early this morning. These are some of the peak wind gusts. I just updated this graphic here. Fremont Canyon, 94 miles per hour. These are hurricane force wind gusts. You could imagine how much of these embers, we talk about spot fires and how these winds will carry some of these embers. And there was just a spray. It was like raining embers and just going everywhere and burning these homes and whole neighborhoods. Arrowhead Springs, 92 miles an hour there. Magic Mountain Truck Trail, this is up in the San Gabriel Mountains, 90 mile per hour wind gusts. Rancho Cucamonga, 83. The Eaton Canyon area got a wind gust near 70 miles an hour. And as I mentioned, it will continue. These red flag warnings and the high fire danger, this particularly dangerous situation. Look at how widespread this is all across SoCal, from Ventura County all the way south into Orange County, the Inland Empire. That means very dry conditions, very strong gusty winds. A small spark, an ember can set another fire and it can explode and grow rapidly. Explosive fire growth potential. And that's what we saw with all these fires yesterday. Wind advisories and wind warnings will continue. Now, here's some good news. 6 p.m., that's the time frame that we're looking at when winds should start to really back down, and we're expecting the wind warning to be dropped or at least be downgraded. We've got a couple of systems in place. The dynamics and the recipe was there for this very unusual weather condition. We had some cold air that dropped down from Canada. This was brought in by this area of low pressure, which, by the way, brought us some rain yesterday, just not across where these fires are burning. It brought some rain up through parts of the high desert and snow up in the mountains. But that low pressure and this high pressure behind it, very tight pressure gradient, which drove those winds very strong, upper levels of the atmosphere, the mid, the low at the surface. So we just had it all yesterday and last night. That low is going to continue to move east, so the gradients will relax. relax by this afternoon. We're going to start to feel and notice those winds start to relax. And then tomorrow, really more noticeable difference. But I'll show you on our computer model here. These are the winds as of this hour. These are the gusts, okay? So still very strong. Watch as we fast forward to this afternoon, much weaker. Okay, 7 p.m., you can see it's probably going to be below advisory criteria, at least in this part here of SoCal. But notice the winds are still fairly strong across parts of the foothill communities of Pasadena, out towards Fontana and Orange County. So the fire danger is still going to be with us. The winds much weaker as we get to Thursday, Friday, and then perhaps on the weekend. Here's a little burst of wind here. So the offshore flow is still with us in that danger. But perhaps by Friday into Saturday, we'll start to get more of an onshore flow. And this will bring a little bit more moisture into the atmosphere. But until then, the impacts will continue. Down trees, power lines, power outages, the fires, relative humidity values still.
From not only this fire, but other fires now burning here across Southern California.
I was getting more and more frantic as, you know, the lights were getting darker and the sky was getting more red. It was scary. I had to call at least 4 or 5 times, and I had to basically level with them and say, we are stuck here, and our car cannot get out of the garage because the garage door is electric.
At the bottom of the canyon, there was cars piled on top of each other. There was boulders and debris that fell off of the canyon that was on fire, that was in the middle of the road where people had to abandon their cars. I know people that live in that gated community right there on Sunset and Palisade Circle. That was on fire. The hillside was on fire. And it's actually the hillside behind my house.
Stars including Mandy Moore, Mark Hamill and James Woods have been evacuated from their homes in the Los Angeles district of Pacific Palisades as wildfires rip through the area. The neighborhood is dotted with celebrity residences. Stars who have homes there include Adam Sandler, Ben Affleck, Tom Hanks, Billy Crystal and Steven Spielberg. 30,000 residents were under evacuation orders and more than 13,000 structures were under threat. In the frantic rush to get to safety, roadways became impassable when scores of people abandoned their vehicles and fled on foot, some toting suitcases. Mandy Moore wrote on Instagram that she was praying for the first responders. Mark Hamill called the wildfires the most horrific since 1993.
Los Angeles is currently experiencing an extreme fire weather condition with red flag alert. Currently, the fire is at 1,261 acres and growing based on aerial reconnaissance. The fire is being fueled by a combination of strong winds and surrounding topography, which is making it extremely challenging for our personnel that are assigned to this incident.
By no stretch of the imagination are we out of the woods. You heard a chief say 10 p.m. tonight to 5 a.m. tomorrow will be peak winds. And having just quite literally an hour or so ago gone up the canyon and saw firsthand the impact of these swirling winds and the embers and the number of structures that are destroyed, not a few, many structures already destroyed, and the fact that people were still not evacuated, still did not heed the warning, we're just coming down the canyon, is a reminder of how serious this moment is and how important it is you listen to these evacuation orders.
From not only this fire, but other fires now burning here across Southern California.
I was getting more and more frantic as, you know, the lights were getting darker and the sky was getting more red. It was scary. I had to call at least 4 or 5 times, and I had to basically level with them and say, we are stuck here, and our car cannot get out of the garage because the garage door is electric.
At the bottom of the canyon, there was cars piled on top of each other. There was boulders and debris that fell off of off the canyon that was on fire, that was in the middle of the road where people had to abandon their cars. I know people that live in that gated community right there on Sunset and Palisade Circle. That was on fire. The hillside was on fire. And it's actually the hillside behind my house.
Stars including Mandy Moore, Mark Hamill, and James Woods have been evacuated from their homes in the Los Angeles district of Pacific Palisades as wildfire